in The Godfather 2, there's this flashback scene around the dinner table that has all of the original characters in it, all the characters from the first movie. And Marlon Brando was supposed to be in that scene. He was supposed to reprise his role as Vito. The day of filming, he just didn't show up. So they had to completely rewrite the scene on the day and just write it without him in it. So that was sort of the idea, is just if we take another movie and go back in time a little bit, let's say that at some point in the movie, the character just doesn't show up, the actor just doesn't show up to work.
Yeah. Okay, so like, so in Star Wars, we're now talking about Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
Where Luke falls down, he gets his hand cut off by Vader, he falls down the hole. Then let's just say Mark Hamill never shows up on set again.
Right, exactly.
So the last thing you see is Luke falling, and now they have to, like, in Return of the Jedi, they have to write in that Luke died in Empire Strikes Back, since Mark Hamill never shows up. And now, like, what does Return of the Jedi look like if you don't have Luke Skywalker in it?
Right.
Yeah. The crazy thing is all the directions you can actually take it in.
Okay.
But there's a lot that's going to happen. Like your whole opening scene with Jabba's palace potentially doesn't happen.
Right.
Because without Luke, we're probably not going to have this like try and like rescue him attempt.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. So really, like, what you're going to have is more like a scene with like Lando going in more like in a diplomatic fashion. Either Lando or Leia going in a diplomatic fashion.
He's there for negotiations.
Yeah, they're just there to see like what can we do to get Captain Solo back.
Yeah.
And then Jabba's going to be like, nothing.
Yeah.
No, like this guy now is a representative of what happens if you mess with me.
Yeah.
And I'm never letting him go.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, we can't risk resources. We can't risk rebel resources to rescue this one guy when we have all these other problems. And then they just have to abandon him.
Huh.
Yeah.
So Han's out. He's just...
So, yeah, Han would not be in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing that I find hard to deal with is like, what do you do with Yoda? Because now Yoda and Ben Kenobi have already mentioned that like there's another person, and they're talking about Princess Leia. They mentioned this in Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
And they're talking about Princess Leia, but Leia hasn't had any Force training like at all.
Right.
So can Ben Kenobi as a Force ghost even communicate with her? Like, does she need to have some kind of, like, an antenna built up?
Yeah. She doesn't have, like, a Force receiver.
Yeah, like, this hasn't even happened for her yet. So can Ben Kenobi, even as a Force ghost, like, influence her or appear to her? Or is this just something that, like, no, you need at least, like, a minuscule amount of Force training before I could even start trying to communicate with you?
Yeah.
So is Yoda out? Or does Yoda, now have a scene with Ghost Ben Kenobi where Ben Kenobi's like, I think it's over, and Yoda's like, we have another chance. Like maybe I have to. Does Yoda leave planet?
Yeah.
To try and get in touch with Leia.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he would have to, because it's set up in The Empire Strikes Back because he says there's another.
Yes.
It suggests that Yoda doesn't just have hope that there's another, but maybe a plan with the other.
Yes.
So I would think that if he says that, it's hey, if Luke dies, I'll go get Leia.
Yeah. So does Yoda find a way off planet to go and try and get in touch with Leia? Meanwhile,
I would think so.
Yoda is dying.
Yeah.
Like, Yoda's on a time limit here.
Yeah. He's on the clock.
Yeah. So, does this movie... Does Return of the Jedi happen even sooner? Because I think there's a little bit of time in between where
Oh.
Luke kind of goes through like a little bit more training to become like a Jedi, before
Yeah.
they end up rescuing Han. So does this happen a little bit sooner where now Yoda, maybe like where we pick up at Leia is like on time with Return of
Yeah.
the Jedi, but where we pick up with Yoda is actually pre all this stuff.
It might move the entire timeline up because if Luke dies, then he doesn't go back to Dagobah.
Yes.
So Yoda is like, Luke's dead, I gotta go get Leia.
Yeah.
So all that time that Luke spends training, that might actually be time that Yoda's training Leia.
Yes.
Which means
Yeah.
that there's still a shot, there's still a chance for there to be a rescue attempt on Han. Just
If
with
Yoda's-
Leia now as the Jedi.
Yeah. I think there's not enough time to train Leia.
Okay.
I think, because I feel like
Luke's been getting training since A New Hope.
yeah, to a certain degree,
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's enough time to train Leia, and I feel like the whole strategy now changes. And here's what I think the strategy is. Yoda, I think, is, if, let's say Yoda finds a way off planet, he finds a way of meeting up with Leia. If they have some whatever conversation where he's like, I was training your brother, Luke, and
Yeah.
she's like, Luke's my brother,
Yeah.
like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, now I get it,
Yeah.
Then he's telling her, like, there's another thing, like, Vader's your father.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I
Yeah.
think the plan now is Yoda is like, I need you to join with Vader to destroy the Emperor, because Vader now is the only one who can do it, who could pull this off.
Right.
Like, you need to join with Vader, destroy the Emperor, rule the Empire with Vader, and then once Vader dies, you now can take over and run it the way you want to run it, so long as along the way you don't turn to darkness, to the dark side. And I think that's the strategy, because you're not going to be able to beat, like, what it took for Luke to get to the point where, like, now you can even fight Vader.
Yeah.
She's never going to get there in that amount of time.
Yeah.
She's not Rey, for crying out loud.
Well, who is?
Yeah, no, Rey could do it. Yoda could, yeah. Rey could beat Yoda. Rey would just kick Yoda. Wouldn't stand a chance. But yeah, like, so I think the whole strategy changes, where it's like, now, like, you're gonna have to make some really hard choices, but this is the best of the bad choices.
Yeah.
This is the only path to go, and your only option is to actually get Vader to sort of join with you now.
Yeah.
And be like, with the, like, that addendum of, like, you're gonna potentially be training me in the Force, and you're gonna get trained by Vader now in the Force, and you have to find a way of not turning to the dark side along this journey, while he's going to be kind of ruling the galaxy for a little bit. But he's injured. He's probably not going to last very long.
He's got a time limit too.
Yeah. He's not. He's got maybe like another 20 years in him, where now Leia's going to be like in her 40s ruling. For the next 40 years. So it's going to work out in the end, but it's going to be a hard price to pay. But we can't defeat the Emperor otherwise.
Yeah. I do like, them kind of pinning their hopes on Vader.
Yeah.
And like maybe counting on Leia to be the one that flips him, the one that like turns him over.
Yes.
I do like that. I don't know if Yoda would want to risk Vader being a ruler for like a decade or two,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that that there's something there where it's like you can have Leia kind of she's now trying to flip her father back over to the light side, and then I also like the idea of there being maybe like fireside chats with Obi-Wan Kenobi, where it's like Vader and Kenobi are talking. Because Kenobi can Force Ghost.
Yeah.
And Vader can receive.
Yeah.
And so now, like, Kenobi's trying to, like, sway his heart, too. And they're having, like, heart-to-hearts, and they're having, like, talks.
Yeah.
And Kenobi keeps showing up, like, when in Vader's chambers and stuff, and talking to him, and he's like...
Yeah.
So, like, Kenobi's also trying to kind of, like, sway his heart and tell him, like...
I love the idea of it.
Yeah.
But I feel like it goes against canon in that why didn't Kenobi do that before then?
Because he had Luke. He had hope in Luke.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, why didn't Kenobi prime Vader for Luke then as well, you know? So I don't think Kenobi could communicate with Vader because I think Vader was blocking Kenobi out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you have to be willing to, like, kind of receive the message in order to get the message.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, Force ghosts would just be driving each other crazy throughout eternity. You know, like...
I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you.
The Emperor's trying to get sleep, and, you know, like, Obi-Wan Kenobi's just like, you know, 99 bottles of beer on the wall, 99 bottles of beer. I am Henry VIII, I am. Like, will you shut up, you idiot? I can't wait till I die so I can, you know, torture you for eternity.
Yeah. I'll become more powerful than even you can imagine.
But I like the idea. I like the idea to the point where, like, I would try and find a way of actually fitting it in, but I think that where Star Wars went astray is in that they lost sight of what the Force is and the limitations of it within the confines of the universe. Yeah. And you have to, like, for me, I'm always asking the question, like, why didn't they do that before then, when we had, like, Jedi that were trained, you know, fully trained Jedi, and they never used these different things. Yeah. And I'm okay with somebody having, like, a unique person having a unique skill, because we've kind of seen that before, you know? Right. Yeah. But I'm not okay with, like, every Jedi now being able to, like, force push, and every Jedi being able to, like levitate. And I'm like, what? I'm like, like, wouldn't the Emperor have levitated if they could levitate?
Yeah, if they could, like, just fly. Him over.
Yeah, like, if they can fly, why don't do that? If they can grab people out of the air, why didn't Vader grab Luke out of the air? You're gonna tell me Vader can't grab Luke? Yeah. Like, what like, where are the rules here? And you guys just completely jumped the shark on the rules because you played too many video games. Right. And the video game rules shouldn't apply to the movie rules. So
there are limitations to these characters. Yeah. There's, like, when Luke is training and Yoda's balancing on his foot and then he falls over. Yes. Yoda falls. Yeah. And, like, like, yells. Like, Yoda, the most powerful Jedi alive. Yeah. Like, falls, 6 feet?
Yeah. And he's like 900. You don't think a 900-year-old would catch themselves if they could? He probably would have caught himself. But I think...
Embarrassing way to die.
I think that's the strategy that Yoda gives, but it's not necessarily how it turns out. I think the way it turns out is actually similar to how it turned out in the movie, because I think Leia is now going to hold on to hope of, like, I think where, like, she feels like, I don't know, maybe Yoda can tell her something like, you know, like, Luke kind of felt like he could turn Vader. Yeah. At the end, I kind of sensed Luke feeling that he could turn Vader, and he was mistaken. Yeah, yeah. You know? But then Leia...
Luke's young, he's naive. Yeah. He doesn't know any better.
And I think Leia at this point is going to feel like, you can't turn him, he's crazy, I've been tortured by this guy before, because she got kind of tortured by him in New Hope. It's not going to happen. But at the point where she actually meets Vader, I think she's now had a little bit of Force training from Yoda, just a tiny bit, so that she can, like, communicate with Force Ghost Ben and that kind of stuff, and Yoda if she needs to. And now when she meets Vader, she actually can sense there is something in him. Yeah. And Luke was right. And I think even though she's not as powerful as Luke at this point, she doesn't fight him, but now she's like, I think I can turn him.
Yeah.
And now she's going in that direction. And I think it's more the kind of father-daughter dynamic relationship.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it makes sense that Luke is like, I think you can turn. Then Vader's like, yeah, but like sons and fathers have a like more competitive, combative relationship. So we're going to fight.
Yeah. I'm gonna promise you the family business, but we don't know if you're actually gonna get
but we're gonna have to wrestle for it.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna beat me like that easily. So, but I think with Leia, the dynamic is going to be a little bit different. And it's going to be because they just fathers and daughters just have a different dynamic, and I think we play into that. And I think she actually, one of the Emperor is actually telling her that he like she's going to turn to the dark side. Now Vader is actually seeing like this is a possibility that might happen, and I don't know. Now that I'm seeing it in real time, I don't think I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
And now Vader and the Emperor are the ones that actually have to fight. Sort of like Luke and Vader had the fight. Now Vader and the Emperor are having this fight.
Yeah.
And you're getting to see like these two kind of like in full action go at it.
Yeah.
And I think it does. I think it ends once again with Vader throwing the Emperor down the shaft.
Yeah.
But Vader sort of is like sacrificing his life once again in order to defeat the Emperor.
Yeah.
So the plan, Yoda's strategy is a good strategy if all things fail and you can manage to rule the galaxy with Vader, which is what Vader wants. He wants to rule the galaxy with his family.
Yeah.
So if all things fail, that's the strategy, and that I think is the strategy Yoda would give. Being like, we lost. This is now the last resort. We have to go with this strategy. Now, but now like it ends very similar to Return of the Jedi, where Vader sacrifices himself in order to save his child, and now Leia is the one who's now gets to take over and rule the galaxy as like the rebel force rather than as the Empire.
Yeah.
The ending though is a little bit different.
Okay.
So you could still have the whole Ewok shield thing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
And the second Death Star, and you could have Lando on the ground. Yeah. With Leia. Yeah. Before Leia ends up getting kind of like where Leia's now like in Luke's position, where Leia still meets up with the Ewoks. And then Leia ends up leaving. She senses Vader, leaves to go meet with Vader, like Luke did. So you still have that happen. Lando's on the ground doing that. And then you have, like Wedge, Akbar, and those guys. And Chewbacca is now in the Falcon, flying the Falcon.
So Lando's on the ground. Yeah. Chewbacca's in the
Yeah, you could maybe have Chewbacca on the ground, but I think it's better having Chewie in the Falcon.
Yeah.
You put Chewie in the Falcon, Lando on the ground, so that Lando finishes the job on the ground. And then he's just like, it's up to you, Chewbacca. Yeah. And then, Chewbacca's flying the Falcon, which would be a cool thing to see. And then him and Wedge are the ones who destroy the Death Star, the second Death Star.
Yeah.
Right? Now, you don't have the Ewok celebration. What you have at the end is you now have the entire Rebel fleet with Empire ships show up at Jabba's palace.
Oh.
And now they're going in and they're taking out Jabba's people, like storming Jabba's palace, like lasers and stuff, killing everybody. Then I'm like getting emotional right now. Then I'm hoping I can hold it together.
So we're gonna save Han, man.
Then
it's a big deal.
She saves Han.
Yeah.
They end up getting Han.
Han's in the slave outfit.
They get They get
like, oh my god.
They get Han, and then you have like that same line where like Han's like in her arms, and Han's like what is this? Who are you? I can't see. And she's like she's like someone who loves you, and it ends. Da, 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 da.
Yeah. Written by George Lucas. Kind of.
Yeah. Story by George Lucas. Kind of. That's the kind of. But that's
I have a lot of respect for George Lucas. I do.
Yeah. I think that's I think that would actually make for a good Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
even a better Return of the Jedi, actually.
More Ewoks.
Because it's like
Yeah.
you don't like rescuing Han Solo. I think would actually be a super impactful ending,
Yeah.
like very impactful.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that the only thing that we would have to change is the title.
Yeah,
Because there is no return. The Jedi has died. So
I
now it's like Jedi Arise or something like that.
I think yeah. I mean, you may be able to keep the title if Yoda has some line in there.
I have returned. I have.
Return of the Yoda.
Yeah. He's a Jedi. He's returned.
But
or is it in
what-
reference to Vader? He just comes back to the light side.
maybe it is
Return of the
Jedi. Yeah, maybe it is in reference to Vader.
Okay, we can
Return
keep
of
the
the
title.
Jedi. Yeah, but I mean,
I'm
whatever.
satisfied with
If
that.
if it changes, it changes. That's not a big deal. But I don't know. I think that's actually a really interesting. Would make for an interesting thing, and I think rescuing Han at the beginning of Return of the Jedi is actually not the right way to go, because it's now you feel like there's this cliffhanger in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Then in Return of the Jedi, they now settle all scores, other than the Empire.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it would almost be better if you have Han in carbonite looming over you for the whole movie. Then at the end of the movie, now we've settled all scores. Now we've gotten Han back. Now we've dealt with the fact that Luke's gone.
Yeah.
Like there is somebody else who can take care of this. And Leia's
Yeah.
the person who can take care of it. Luke's not going to be the hero every single time.
Yeah.
Now
yeah.
we've settled Vader and the Emperor and the Empire. Now it's all been settled, and it's sort of like wrapped up in this nice little bow, and it kind of leaves you feeling good about it and good for what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
And now, like, the Death Star blowing up and the Ewoks singing isn't the big finale. The big finale is the personal relationship, that we have with Han Solo, and the fact that he gets rescued from this movie. And Harrison Ford doesn't want to be Han Solo anyway, so he would be happy. He'd be happy making money for a 10-second scene.
Yeah. And I don't want to like get into it, but the whole Kylo Ren arc might not happen if Luke didn't train Kylo Ren. Now Kylo Ren's being trained by his mom.
Yeah.
Might have had a different arc. Might have had a kind of a different upbringing.
Yeah.
So there's that to consider too. I'm not going to. But I'm just throwing that out.
Are you happy where this landed?
I am happy where this landed. It actually seems like a really like a watchable movie that's like impactful. It kind of, it holds the same spirit as like what Return of the Jedi was going for.